How's everyone doing today? We're gonna have a minute, people are gonna kind of still be flowing in, I think, but I'll get started. My name is Emily Sarah. Welcome. I'm the founder of Cripple, a publishing initiative for disabled artists and designers. To describe my screen, I am a white femme. I have pink hair that's cropped. I have large black glasses, and I have a pink background. We're here with Denise Shanté Brown, who I'm so excited to be, collaborating in this event with and just, yeah, having this time with all of you together. So Denise Shanté is going to be talking about publishing as a commitment to care. Our interpreters are Cheyenne Atkins-Grant and Rorri Burton. Thank you both so much for being here. We also have an access doula. Should you need any support with the Zoom, you can ask a question or reach out directly to Mia Navarro. Without further ado, I'll metaphorically pass the mic to Denise Shante. And thank you again so much for being here. I'm just like really excited to have this time with you and really appreciate you putting in all this work for us tonight. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily. Hey, everyone. I'm going to make sure I'm adjusting things on my screen correctly here. Before doing anything, how I like to start my gatherings is with a sensorial presencing practice. This is something that I've been beginning with in my gatherings and experiences for at least 4 years now. And it's a moment to be with our bodies, to slow down, to arrive. Who knows all the many things that we've been moving through today, this week. And so, at the scale of your capacity, I invite us into a moment of noticing. You might want to begin with the breath, or as many breaths as you need. And taking a moment to notice the sensations, the colors, the textures, the sounds and intuitions that are around you and also within you at this moment. There's light rain happening outside my window. I can smell jasmine in the air from this candle that my aunt made in Atlanta. The soft yellow from this amber light, the warmth on my hand, on my heart. As you're coming in, we're just taking a moment to notice and be with our bodies to arrive here. And I invite you in the chat to share any access needs that you may have today and a response to the question, what are you publishing and making public? Share this in the chat as well. Share any access needs you may have today in response to the question, what are you publishing and making public? Maybe it's a zine. Maybe it's an essay inspired by a playlist you've been curating. See some shares coming through. Not published anything yet, but I have a few ideas that I really want to share with the world. I have a lot of fear around sharing my work in general, and I'm here in hopes I can overcome that fear, heart. I feel that Thank you for sharing that. Welcome, Dory. That you can be here too. Ooh, Cripple is going to be publishing a book that is also a kite. That sounds really amazing. Momo has shared on access needs, so we can tend to that. Breaks to step away from the computer, working on a hardcore musician profile, photo zine. Amazing, amazing. Yeah, throughout this talk, we'll have a couple of short breaks, but take breaks as you need them. They don't need to be among the scheduled time. Our talk today is also recorded as well. Do what you need to tend to your body, mind today. Oh, I publish because I'm an academic and I'm working on how to do more writing and publishing that I'm genuinely excited about and connected to. Yeah, that shift from the academic writing space. Tina has shared, I'm not publishing anything yet either, but I have been outlining a speculative fiction short story. Yeah. All of this is exciting. I'm publishing an end of year on my top 10 or 12 or 13 things, social media stuff, songs, photos I took, and experiences from this year for me as I experienced 9 months of burnout living primarily from bed. Absolutely felt 100%. And I love the curation, the different modes. It feels multi-sensory. Thank y'all for sharing these. Yeah, noticing things going on with internet and things today. I have no publishing upcoming. It's a future dream, maybe. We'll see what this talk might inspire. No access needs beyond what's being offered. Camera off and breaks. I'm looking forward to publishing on embodied imagination and sitting with. Yes. All of that, the somatics, the embodiment. Thanks for being here. Hey. Alyssa shared, hey folks, I'm part of a team that self-published a magazine about white anti-racist organizing, and we're working toward issue 2 now. Happy to be here. I have that issue 1 on my zine wall that you'll see in some photos later. I love reading all of this. Support for projects, poems, people giving poetry readings, published essays, publishing and writing banned words from this administration to uncensor these censored words. Hey, Nene. Publishing semi-coherent / loosely assembled thoughts on effective somatic material implosion. Okay. All of that is magic. More access needs, video being off. Yes, videos, cameras off are welcome here. Also welcome to just type in the chat, share emojis, whatever that communication mode needs to be for you. In making public personal grief and growth through interdisciplinary visual art, and often abstraction. Very curious about publishing, writing as a way to face my fears around personal storytelling. Wow. I want to be inside of these, know more about these. Working on some access needs. My body mind was wiped from back-to-back meetings and no food. May need to return this as a recording. I hear that, Chelsea. Thanks for being here. I'm working on publishing zines, offerings, and community works that center Black disabled film experience. I'm familiar and so excited about what's emerging within the practice. More shares coming through. I'm writing book proposals for my first book, nonfiction, combination medical memoir, art exhibition, and artist interviews, debating self-publishing versus finding a publisher. Ooh, that's going to be all into the threads of this talk today. I'm excited to hear more about everyone's experience with publication. Yeah. You see some conversations happening in the threads here. Thank y'all for sharing. Continue activating the chat at your capacity and as you need to. And I'm gonna just share a bit about how we're going to flow through this conversation today. So we're gonna journey through 6 of my publishing experiences or experiments that carry a commitment to care, and it'll be across the themes of slow self-publishing, practice-based storytelling, collaboration and writing with, independent publishing, multi-modality as well. So this is more, or this is less tips and tricks and more about insight through witnessing process. So I hope that as we drop into these experiments, I'll weave in inquiries and things that can stimulate some curiosity and possibility around these worlds of publishing. We'll have short pauses in the middle of the talk and again before getting into questions and conversations. And then we'll close with a special creative offering for y'all who showed up here right now and people who are registered and maybe watching this recording. And I'll share ways for us to stay connected. The timing of all of this being at the end of the year really invited a moment for me to meditate on my creative lineage of publications, some, not all of them, and to extend this as an opportunity for you to do the same, to reflect on your own writing and publishing practices and to dream what careful approaches to publishing might look like for you. I want to begin by sharing a ritual, how I begin moments of creative expression with my activation for creative social practice. I'm going to read this out loud. What you're looking at right now is on the left side, the cover of my current writing notebook from Indie Paper that I got in Philly, which is like one of my favorite notebooks ever. And I just had one shipped to me to Atlanta when I was visiting family so I could have a backup because I'm almost done with this one. And it's the only writing notebook I want to have officially for like essays and stuff. So that's the cover that I collaged on the left. And then on the right is my activation for creative social practice that I will read and share more. My creative practice is devotion made manifest. I release not enoughness. I begin with magnificence. How I express my life, death, and possibility, nothing less than love. The creative lineages and legacies before me, within me, and after me, nothing less than love. Every word, every fragment, every dream, nothing less than love. The way I pour into what matters to me the most, nothing less than love. How I honor what I've known through language, action, and design, nothing less than love. May my body and practice be a conduit for the tender power of care and creative spirit to come through. This was written winter of 2023 after watching the Writing as Ceremony microclass recording by Alexis Pauline Gumbs. It's a kind of manifesto infused with the ceremony of Alexis alongside the spirit of June Jordan, Black feminist, queer, political activist, and poet who you may know. And it reaffirms my purpose to write futures that can be pulled into the present. It pours care over my creative being when I find myself doubting what needs to be shared on and beyond the page. I read it out loud like 3 times, sometimes while looking in the mirror above my altar before I start writing or exploring creative ideas. And afterwards, I always feel more rooted. I feel more self loving, more trusting, and expressing the stories, inquiries, and interior worlds that want to be known through me. When preparing for this particular talk, I was curious about how the tender power of care and creative spirit has been coming through, and if I could locate any visual references of what sustains me in my publishing practices. These are some of the visual references that I found. There's a thread of having creative play spaces and hobbies that don't directly involve me publishing or writing in the formal sense, yet continually inform and shape what may eventually become some kind of literary expression or become the designs of my zines and my books. So we're looking at making booze-free cocktails, going to ceramic classes, printmaking with natural plants and other things, collaging, eco-printing, personalizing my writing notebooks and having very specific notebooks like I shared that my writings are living inside. There's a presence of nurturing my spiritual relationships as well as the liberatory communities of practice I'm a part of that are life-giving, life-affirming, life-sustaining. That includes time at my altar, nature connectedness, being a weaver with the Center for Liberatory Practice and Poetry, stewarded by Kimmy, and contributing to the creation of those values and practices. And there's memory keeping. There's sustaining a living archive of my creations, living alongside those who breathe into what I want to write and design into existence. You can see my zine wall in my home, or shelf in my home, and the artifacts living in my creative studio space. As someone who does not dream of creating or mothering children, my creative practices is my lineage and legacy. So I want these extensions of my spirit and my body to be archived. And it's also just cool, I think, to build and document a body of work that lives and breathes alongside what sustains me. So I'm curious for you all, and I'll share this in the chat too. Thanks for sharing that, Emily. What are some things sustaining you in your publishing practices right now? Are you playing with ceramics? Are you knitting? Are you taking walks? Are you practicing how to take naps? What are some of the things sustaining you in your publishing practices? I'm also taking a look in the chat here and seeing some appreciations of waste and pace. Thank you, thank you. Relishing and doing crafts with the nibblings. The nibblings like nieces and nephews. Weaving textiles and plant matter, forest bathing, humming, tea. I need a hot drink, but caffeine is a once a day treat. Yeah, I love tea. Reading, 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 ceramics and more tea, sitting on a patio with plants, walking, sitting, beading, dancing, collaboration, clay, rituals of practice. Yeah, all of these sound so loving, so self-loving, tending, small naps. Yeah, those 10 to 15 minute naps are so sweet. Morning walks, audiobooks, morning walks in brisk air and breathing, loving on my roommate's dog. These are making me smile. See some things coming in about poetry. I told a friend last week that I could get out of my childhood knitting needles and relearn how to knit, or get out my childhood knitting needles and relearn how to knit. My grandma taught me originally, so as a way to connect with her. This is so sweet. Voice memos with friends, revisiting songs. Simply knowing that creation restores me and always returning to it. I resonate with that feeling of knowing I'll not give birth or be a parent. So in that way, my practice is birthing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Keep sharing all. Thank you for these. I'll continue returning to the chat, and you all can continue being in dialogue and witnessing each other. These creative play spaces, these liberatory relationships and well-kept memories are also teaching me about publishing as a commitment to care. But what does that mean? And I want to get into that because I think it's important with the realities of appropriation and capitalism, especially around care, us taking the time to articulate the essence and meaning of languages that we use is important. So when I say publishing, I mean deliberately choosing to make the excavations and manifestations of my creative writing practice public for relational, caring, and communal engagement. I publish based on my desires, my fluctuating capacities and abilities, resources that are material and relational, and intuition. And when I say commitment to care, I mean a whole disabled bodied devotion to being intimately concerned about the well-being, safety, liberation, and breath of my kin and folk. I carry a refusal to abandon myself in the process of creation and am continuously learning how to, quote unquote, embody being full of care. That definition comes from one of my favorite books, Take Care of Yourself, The Art and Cultures of Care and Liberation by Sundas Abdul Hadi, who gives language to what it means to be careful, which is to embody being full of care. With the storytelling technologies and often fragmentary writing experiences I'm sharing with y'all today, my intention is to offer these glimmers and glimpses into these meanings and into who I am as a designer who must write and publish with care. So let's get into it. With slow publishing, slow self-publishing. I know that my spirit burns through this body with no regard, no respect, no care. I'm trying to figure out how to become gentler with myself. I don't want to be as cruel as the rest of this world. Slowly, as I learn to listen to it, I acknowledge that this body is disabled. This is language that makes my spirit pause rather than driving the flesh into ruin. Language that gives me gentleness. Akweke Emezi in the essay, My Spirit Burns Through This Body. I share this because Akweke is often giving us honest, like, my spirit burns through this body with no regard, no respect, no care. Like, yes, sometimes it does. They're giving us honest, spirit-led narratives on how necessary it is for us to recognize capacity alongside possibility and to not allow the publishing world to pull us away from the gentleness we deserve. So these two slow self-publishing experiments I'm going to share to explore the breathing spaces of this necessity. Be well after Tasha. is a poem. It's my poetic response to the track Take Care by songwriter and musician Tasha. For content context, I am going to be talking about COVID-19 and 2020 uprisings for Black lives. So if you need to take a pause, if you need to mute and come back after this particular share, just giving yourself a moment to kind of discern around that and shift as you need to. So the song Take Care by Tasha is one that I played on repeat throughout the rise of the COVID-19 pandemic that's ongoing, the Black Lives Matter movement and Black resistance. It was written and recorded during the summer nights of 2020 after emerging from a 6-week period of not leaving my home and feeling compelled out of necessity to write a letter of care to the people I love. I'm going to share and play this so we can listen to it. On the right side, you'll see a screenshot of the sound wave of my voice when saying, "Be well." So let's listen in.
I believe in care now. Believe in cosmic flowers. Portals in my dreams, I believe in Black imagination. Believe in our homes as sanctuaries. I believe in sacred pleasure. I believe in rituals on my lips and sound baths on my skin. I believe in my body. I'm learning how to love my body. And sometimes, when the nights are long and my mind is full, I'm afraid that when I wake, I will have forgotten all of the things that I've designed to keep me safe. So I whisper, be well. My beloved friends, my family, my community, through the distance, I need you to be well. Be well. So when we rise and remember that what we have is our creativity as protest and our breath for poetry and liberation on our tongues, we can celebrate each other for the ways we've chosen ourselves, the ways we've tended to our gardens through darkness and nourished our souls with seeds of softness. Be well. Speak it as your prayer and your mantra until it vibrates up and down your chakras. So when we meet again in the next world, because we will have joy in our eyes and possibility on our pillows in the morning.
Oh, it's been a while since I've listened to that, and my voice doesn't even sound the same anymore. This creation, what did it require? It required my voice, it required my lung, the mic on my cell phone, the voice recording, resourcing what I had nearby while sheltering in place. It was allowing space for the emergent, responding to the current turmoil and political rupture, and longing for us to remember how necessary it was and is to practice care with each other in the ways that we can. I was also honoring my capacities and social change ecosystem role that we'll see and are seeing on this framework. I do the iron and the healer role. And they describe the healer as recognizing and tending to the generational and current traumas caused by oppressive systems institutions, policies, and practices. As a disabled and chronically ill type 1 diabetic with several other illnesses, I was also feeling pressure from movements to be out in the streets protesting without witnessing hardly any regard or care for the compromising risk that involved. I have a screenshot on this slide about me posting about that and just speaking to the realities that there are disabled and chronically ill people like me who are choosing to do the work that we can at home safely to protect our health and our bodies, who are building from our beds, from our wheelchairs and sofas. And this, it was like, what can I do? What can I do from my capacity and my sense of safety, and refuse to sacrifice my body care, right? My self-love, and knowing that we can be in the process of designing the revolution, and it can be pleasurable and it can be accessible. So the Be Well poem became its own form of protest, written, recorded, and published from my bed. It was also being in creative conversation and carrying citation with Tasha's Take Care piece, which is why it says after Tasha, and it being a part of the poem's title. It created an echo and a ripple of care, a love letter that continues on today, and it currently lives in the Center for Liberatory Practice and Poetry's resource library. And there's a screenshot of that as well. It's creating moments for us to ask ourselves, like, who are the creative writers and word weavers here in Transcended you want your publications to be in creative conversations with, to echo, and to carefully cite. Inquiries like this I'm going to weave throughout the talk today, tonight, and you're welcome to respond to these in the chat and be in dialogue with one another. I have a citation as well, because the word weaver comes from beloved Octavia Butler, her Black feminist ancestor and speculative fiction writer, who wrote down the phrase and affirmation word weaver along with world maker, storyteller, and bestseller in one of her notebooks. I'm going to peek into the chat here so I can get a sense of what's happening. Wow, other type 1 diabetics in here. Yeah, carrying citation. Yes, understanding all of this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The life-giving consequences of creative rest. Another content context here with the mentions of grief and the death of a loved one. So tend to yourselves, do what you need to do as I'm moving through this publishing experiment. This is a personal essay on reckoning with what happens to creative practice when choosing slowness and softness. I wrote this during and after noticing how my life, work, and relationships have changed since taking a breath amid grief and turmoil. And this essay captures a glimpse of what it feels like to resist systems of exhaustion while centering care. There's a cover of the zine that I took in the Mount Vernon neighborhood of Baltimore. I think I was walking and I saw some trees and I placed it there. Started taking some photos. So the zine was published in March of 2023, but it really started writing itself in fall of 2021, when I announced a really necessary 3-month pause from all the work. You know, at the time, some work was slowing down, but in the space of like liberatory praxis and design, justice, the work wasn't really slowing down for me. It was amping up and it became a lot. And I knew that I was going and feeling the edges of burnout. And so I announced a 3-month pause from all work. And I asked my communities to celebrate my creative rest as much as or more than my creative labor. I took that pause while I was in Oaxaca, Mexico. And while I was there, I lost my beloved granny, Levis Denise Brown, to COVID-19 on December 22nd of 2021. And she was 64 years old. And it's a photo of her smiling in a black and pink floral shirt in my apartment in Baltimore. The essay continued writing itself across 8 months as I slowly death cleared the home that I grew up in and was furiously writing notes in my phone about the unfortunate realities of how creative relationships, engagement with my work, financial resource, and opportunities quickly faded. And so much was being revealed about the resistance to slowness and softness many of us hold, especially when it involves a Black woman needing to refocus her creative life and full existence on rest instead of urgency and productivity. So I gathered my notes, my grief, my rage, and transformed them into my first self-published essay zine. I have been connected to Nicole with Sense of Press, which is an independent publishing risograph printing studio based in Baltimore, and reached out to them on Instagram to see if they had capacity to collaborate. And they said yes. So I visited the studio. We discussed our creative desires and capacities. We emailed each other. I designed everything. They set up print production with papers they already had stocked in the studio. We made test prints and we loved the outcome. We started around late January and completed the limited edition of 50 by mid-March. Like I knew I only had capacity and the resources to do like a small print run. And we did it. It was emergent, it was beautiful. The essay zine, it weaves personal narrative with poetry and imaginative inquiry. It's a very layered expression that mirrored the layers of life I had been emotionally processing. Some of the inquiries inside ask questions like, what if we imagine our capacity showing up as care guides from the future, revealing what we need to rest and recover? And what if we released capitalistic white supremacist patterns that pull us away from our present so we can become portals of possibility? This was entirely funded through monthly Patreon contributions. I kept a limited number of copies for Patreon members to claim and receive. I announced it. I invited them to claim their copies and held some aside, and then I sold the rest on my website after announcing on Instagram and my newsletter. I think it took like maybe a day for all of those to be gone. And some of y'all in the room right now have copies of this zine. And I had, I kept several copies for my own archive as well. So this decision to print through a local Baltimore independent press allowed me and Nicole's body, minds, and creative modes of making to be a part of every part of the process. It allowed us to be slow, to be generative, to make revisions or adjustments when we needed to. When everything was printed, because I'll talk about some mistakes that I made throughout this process as well, I realized that I missed a word in one of the inquiries on the pages, and I was like, oh no, like everything's already printed now. And I decided to write in the word that was missing in each zine because I designed them to be written in anyway. And because of how I design, people don't want to write in my stuff. And I'm like, it's meant to be written in. And so I was like, I'm writing in every single one of these zines to encourage folks to treat it as a journal and not just this beautiful artifact that doesn't get used. Not a lot of people like that, but I didn't really care. So before taking another departure from Baltimore, I saw this free zine portal at Red Emma's. It's a worker cooperative bookstore, cafe, and community event space. And I knew I didn't have time to do another limited print run of the original Rizzo design, but I did have time to make a digital version in color and then experiment with some black and white copies. I really, really wanted to have this essay zine as part of the zine portal and to leave a small gesture of care for the people in city who attended to me. And so I made like 10 black and white versions of the zine, folded them, dropped them off at Red Emma's, adding to their free offerings alongside mutual aid resources. And it's an image that you can see. Well, on the left side is just like my laptop with, I love collecting stickers. And like an area view of the zine in my writing notebook. And on the right side is the image of the Red Emma's zine portal wall and the zines that I place on top. It was really, really, really fun to do that. I'm looking at the chat now. Yeah, see more folks in Baltimore. Wait, now I think I know who Momo. Okay, everything's making sense now. I see some shares, plus resist the idea of perfection, which I struggle with. Yeah, like how can we like just let it go? Like I'm not gonna get caught up in how everything looks. And so that brings us to this inquiry of like, as designers and writers, are we willing to change the aesthetics within our creations to swiftly meet the moment and make extensions of care our only form of urgency? Are we willing to make photocopies, to change paper and ink, to create digital downloadable versions, and then gift our publications back to the people and lands who have held us and helped make our work possible? I'm crediting Urgent Craft, Radical Publishing During Crisis by Paul Soelis, who shares the principle, commit to maintenance and self-care as a form of urgency. And so that's what I mean with like, what does it mean to make extensions of care our only form of urgency? I returned to Red Emma's a few days after adding them to the zine portal, delighted to see that they were all taken. They were all gone. And I was like, yay. People have these lo-fi black and white versions of my zine hanging out in their spaces too. How cool. That was a great little moment before traveling again. Practice-based storytelling. We become what we practice, and we're always practicing something. It's a quote from Alta Star in another essay that I read like several times a year called Cultivating the Self, Embodied Transformation for Artists. Being someone who writes to open us up to what can become more possible in our practice as designers and creative beings who are shaping and being shaped by this world, I'm always feeling into this relationship between creative social practice and storytelling. These next two practice-based storytelling experiments deliberately weave the embodied practices that shape me and demonstrate how to transform what I publish into a practice ground for myself and for the people who welcome the published works into their lives. Ways of Being is a card collection, and it really started with an inquiry. I was like, if I could describe, I'm just hanging out. I think I was in Oaxaca at the time. I was like, if I could describe the practices and possibilities that continue to shape my life, and I only use 3 words, what would they be? I like giving myself these like little challenges, I guess. And these creative challenges, and they may feel limiting to other people, but they feel expansive to me. And so it became a collection of 9 cards that facilitate meditation, conversation, and creative guidance around practices we can make possible in our everyday lives. Echoing some of the personal and communal commitments expressed within the design, organizing, and somatic spaces I'm connected to, the collection is really inviting us to slow down and listen to what guides us by engaging with the range of creative acts and inquiries. So you're looking on this right side, an image of me holding the set of the 9 cards outside in the garden above and beside this desert rose tree. These are all of the cards together. They're existing to illuminate the changes that we need to make for the futures that we desire. They're opening us up to expand our capacities for intimacy and wonder within ourselves and one another. So there is a practice, and there's also an inquiry that goes at the top and bottom of each card. And they represent daily practice and how we can make everyday moments of liberation more possible. So some of these, I'll read all the practices. Be in ritual, design with care, trust your body, begin with grace, love the process, soften into sorrow, embody possible futures, make boundaries sacred, and return to radiance. Some of the inquiries, like for design with care, is what would be different if your co-creations channeled the tender power of care from conception to manifestation? Begin with grace. Who would you be if you entered and moved through experiences with the energy of ease and compassion? Or embody possible futures where within your being and practice are portals starting to open for more liberatory existence. I love to know, and I'll drop this in the chat, which ways of being card are you feeling compared to inquire and practice within right now? Like, as you see these, are you like, ooh, that's the practice that I need to get into? That's the one I want to be reflecting on at the end of this year or into the next year, this next cycle. Return to radiance, embody possible futures, love the process, make boundaries sacred, more embody possible futures. Yeah. Make boundaries sacred. There's so much here. Yeah, begin with grace. Be in ritual and embody possible futures. Return to radiance. Yeah, be in ritual too. All of them, more than one. They are living in different communities and spaces. Like I designed these to be easily woven into our days as a self-reflection tool, as a facilitation medium for communal gatherings, and really wherever we choose to enact another way of being. So these cards have been activated by communities of fellow designers, writers, healers, artists, and organizers throughout the US and Mexico. I revisited the cards a year after the first publication and translated them into Spanish as a commitment to transnational belonging and to also deepen my existing creative collaborative relationships with people living in Mexico. As my language learning continues, I did the translations in collaboration with someone from Oaxaca, where I've seeded creative connections with artists and cultural workers. One of those specifically being within the arts and cultural organization Poco a Poco, who some of you may know about. I also, they've been distributed, these cards have been distributed in care packages to a group of grantees focused on community care work and to a cohort of spiritual herbalism apprentices. A collaborator in the design justice world reached out to me asking if the card collection could be sent to this cohort. And at the time, I didn't ask to be paid a fee or anything. They paid for the printing and shipping cost. And you know, when I'm publishing, I'm not always focused on making a return in profit. I consider the money flowing throughout my entire creative ecosystem, my relationship with the person, asking for this creation and what feels good to my spirit at that particular time. And at the time, I was just like, yeah, that sounds cool. We'll pay for printing and shipping. And that's it. And I'll send them to you. And we can do that and distribute them to the cohort. And that was really, really, really fun. And to also receive reflections from people contacting me on Instagram or sending me messages, letting me know that they were a part of the spiritual herbalism crew and have received these and were in practice with these was really, really heartwarming at the same time. I was also curious about how the practices and possibilities could live through embodied movement and video. Erica, who's pictured here in different moments of movement, is someone I've collaborated with through practices of design justice. And they're also an artist and performance maker. I know, and I knew at the time that they had been returning to doing these movement exercises. So I reached out to them, sharing the collection and inviting them to respond to the creative act and inquiry that resonated with them the most. And they chose trust your body. And the inquiry for that is when you tune into your inherent ways of knowing, what intuitive messages, longings, and rhythms are revealed. And so we're gonna watch this video. Let me click this link here. So this video with Erica really became a creative exchange. They supported my dream of seeing one of the practices embodied through movement and also with the video that I could add to my archive. And they received, in addition to their movement exercises, And I sent them the full Ways of Being card collection. I still like it I feel all kinds of things when rewatching that video and just like, ah, yeah, like these are the other ways, the ways of being can be communicated. So the print collection itself was another experiment funded through Patreon, and I offered it at a sliding scale at the time, inviting us into this question of what could become more possible with our publishing if we weave translation, connection across borderlines, and embodied movement. What does that look like? What does it open up for us? What can it expand? Yeah, I see some conversations and things happening. This next practice-based storytelling piece that I'm going to speak briefly about are meditative talks on Insight Timer. So Insight Timer is a social meditation platform and app that y'all might be familiar with guided meditations, mindfulness practices, talks, music, events, and courses. And each meditative talk on Insight Timer is me experimenting with another medium for storytelling that goes beyond print and intentionally disrupts typical meditation app media by weaving narrative, inquiry, and facilitation. And with this work, I'm really hoping to offer some respite from the internal struggles that we encounter throughout our everyday lives and build new ways of relating to ourselves and each other while generating some spaces of digital well-being. These images show a screenshot of the teacher profile and one of my published talks that's 1 minute, that is the most popular one with 13,000 plays, called Notice the People Who Celebrate You with You. So the everyday topics that I write about and record and share, it's about emotional honesty, being in active care, things like choosing and celebrating life-sustaining relationships. I talk about dating, the pleasure of presence and slowing down, weaving spaciousness and ease throughout every dimension of our lives, creatively and compassionately confronting cultures of perfectionism that can invade our sense of worthiness and belonging. I chose Insight Timer because it's the space that I've personally been meditating on and practicing within for years. And I'm really just using this platform as one of my creative writing practice grounds. Like, I let my notes transform into talks and approach every published piece here as a mini writing experiment. It's really fun for me. And it has helped me grow confidence in sharing my voice, like my actual voice. I learned how to speak, how to shift with cadence, how to also express, the confidence on my literary voice, even if it is something that's 1 minute long. I'm going to give you a little inside drop into what it looks like on the back end. So this is a screenshot of my teacher dashboard. And it, as a teacher, is what they call us, like people who are there publishing the talks and the meditations and things. I can stay connected with everyone's engagement through this dashboard. Like, it shows the frequency of the published talks, the tracks, the length, the number of plays, the ratings, etc. As you can see, the shorter tracks have the most plays. And there are these brief downloads of wisdom that I wrote while showering or taking a walk or writing in my journal. And I just felt like playing on my phone and recording my voice saying these things. And I would upload it, and I would intentionally find an image of a Black woman on, I think it's like Upsplash or something like that. It's one of the free photo searching platforms that you can download and also share. If someone knows it, please drop it in the chat. So the only things I was really using was like my recording app on my phone. And I just recently started using Audacity, which is an audio editing platform. And I mean very minimal editing. I'm only like maybe like taking out some moments of me like messing up, because I'll keep recording if I mess up, and I'll just do it over again, and I can delete it once I upload it onto the platform. So for free tracks on here, people can donate with every listen. I love reading the comments from people too. And next year, I'm thinking about offering like a premium track and a premium course, because they're only available to paid member plus subscribers, which means the payouts are higher for teachers. So I'm actually thinking about transforming the ways of being card collection into like a 9-day course or something like that. But we'll see. I'm exploring. It's an idea. It's living in my notebook right now. Publishing in this form invites a moment to wonder, what if we expanded our storytelling through voice and guidance? Where do we want these expansions to live? How could this chosen space become our pleasurable practice ground? Maybe it is a meditation app. Maybe it's something different. Maybe it's another platform that you use that your voice can be a part of. Maybe you want to start creating some albums and add them to SoundCloud. What if? What could happen? What could become more possible? Thank you for sharing that in the chat on splash.com. Checking here in the chat. As we hold this inquiry, this is going to be a moment where we're going to take a brief 5-minute pause. When we return, we'll drop into the themes of collaboration and writing with, independent publishing, and multimodality. And we'll have another short break in return for questions and conversation that I'm excited to be in with you all. So let's come back 13 minutes after the hour in 5 minutes. Slowly returning back here. I know some folks have had to transition. If you can hear me and you're here, welcome, welcome, welcome back. I was looking through the chat and loving these conversations around reading rooms and mutual aid happening. So in collaboration and writing with. Meaningful collaboration both relies on and deepens relationship. The stronger the bond between the people or groups in collaboration, the more possibility you can hold. In beginning this work, notice who you feel drawn to and where you find ease. And notice who challenges you, who makes the edges of your ideas grow or fortify. This is a quote from Adrienne Maree Brown in the book Emergent Strategy, Shaping Change, Changing Worlds. These noticings are so important for our bodies, for our creative dreams, for our commitments. This publishing experiment theme of collaboration and writing with demonstrates how experiences like bonding, ease, and fortified ideas can be possible in the process of contributing to collective bodies of work. On content context, there will be mentions of grief and death. The poem, the visual poem, I believe grief has no timeline, so don't rush me, is a poetic meditation written and designed after death clearing my granny's home and feeling the ongoing non-linear emotions and memories that exist within a grief process. So feeling urgency from exterior worlds and ways of being and making that often rush the timelessness of grief. This was my poetic, tender act of resistance. On the right, you'll see an image of the grief. It's categorized in the encyclopedia in the book as grief is nonlinear. And it's sitting on the desk, open in my creative studio space. And there's a frame in the background for y'all Baltimore folks who might recognize the Baltimore Beat newspaper. The poem, it's now a part of the book, an encyclopedia of radical helping by Thick Press. Some of y'all might be in it. It's inviting the reader to wander through a collection of interconnected entries of helping and healing by over 200 contributors. Normally, I do not respond to calls for submission or calls for entries. I find the processes to be exhausting. I find them to be uncaring to disabled writers and bodies. And as an intuitive writer, I personally need the topics of my writings to be emergent and not predefined. This process with Thick Press for the encyclopedia offers something different in their call for entries. There was the freedom to choose a radical concept that they listed or create our own and submit it in any mode or form. They also offered 4 free virtual writing group sessions for contributors. And this was created to help, as they described, to help ease some writing anxieties and offer support and accountability, no critique. This offering was especially helpful for me as someone who had publications in magazines and collections before, but without that sense of relationality and writing alongside folks that I found myself longing for. While we were in this particular writing group, I responded to people by sharing how their writings made me feel and incorporating the body sensations list that is in the image on the right in pink and teal. This list was created by Minachi, who is the author of Decolonizing Nonviolent Communication. I was already connected to Erin, who's the social worker and editor of Thick Press, because of our shared cohort experience in the Emergent Strategy Ideation Institute Praxis Project in 2022. So there was an existing relationship there and some familiarity. There was no submission fee. They granted honorariums to anybody who wanted one. No one was rejected. That's how there was over 200 people, but they also wanted it to be like a full breadth of these radical concepts within the encyclopedia. And contributions could be you could submit a few sentences if you wanted to, or up to 1,000 words or images. This opportunity to communicate a concept with words and imagery was exciting and also caring for me. I had several chats with the designer, Julie, about, what are the layout limitations and what's the print production happening? Because I had a very specific vision that would require my poem to be, across this 2-page spread. And I also wanted it to feel like the poem was a part of the book and not a pasted image. I did not want like a white pasted background and it looked like just this image block. I don't know, it just like visually it really bothers me. And across the bottom of the page, uh, that's a part of the poem, I included like this invitation for readers to have an embodied engagement with the poem as well, like remembering to integrate ways for our bodies to connect with what we're publishing. So there was creative agency I was able to maintain throughout the entire process. The second edition, maybe y'all saw the recent call, it's closed now. So the second edition is coming out in 2027. I'll have 2 pieces on radical concepts, on the radical concepts of multimodal experiences and felt features. And that's exciting. If you are submitted, drop some of that in the chat. I want to know. Okay, I see some folks doing an entry. Yeah, I'm not sure if they're, so share in the chat, I'm doing an entry for them for the next volume. I don't think they're doing workshops this time around. I don't know, they might. And if they do, I think it would be next year, since it's not being published until 2027. I'm gonna ask Aaron, I'm curious. Because I'm also, when it is released, I would love to like host my own virtual like reading of people I know who submitted and have entries in the book, and us to have our own kind of reading experience, because they did in-person reading experience, but I want to do a virtual one. Monica's writing about soup. Yeah, writing and submitting a couple. Yeah. This is all great. All great. An inquiry for us here. Oh, also, I forgot. That's Nora at the top looking at the poem in the way that she looks at things when I was taking a photo. It was super cute. So, how do we want to respond to calls for entries? Do we want to respond at all? And how do we want to be a part of collective bodies of work? And if we are, what do we need for our creative body minds to be nourished in the process? Do we need the freedom to have complete agency over what it is and the topics that we're writing? Do we need an honorarium? Do we need those writing groups? Questions to reflect on. The last theme that I'm sharing with y'all tonight, is on independent publishing and multimodality. Our multimodal praxis call for more deep breaths, more intensity to pause, more play and more pleasure, and less reason to fall outside of the visionary process of transformation, by P. Ife Williams, from the essay Reflections on the Negation of Blackness / Affirmations of Our Clairvoyance Through Creative Healing Praxis. I genuinely believe that having a multimodal praxis can offer us and the people engaging with our publications the deep breaths, the pause, the play and pleasure that P. Ife Williams affirms. As we enter this last publishing experiment with the theme of independent publishing and multimodality, it's an invitation to feel into the care of multimodality and what's possible when that stays independent, when it stays intimate and outside the mainstream. May we dream and design felt futures. This is my book collection. In the intro, I share, consider this book collection an experiment in feeling the futures that our creative being and practice can live inside. There, you'll find us dreaming and designing. There, we'll begin to know the sensations and presence of care, intimacy, and liberation. On the book description itself, it says, may we dream and design felt futures as a manifestation of intuitive writings. In this collection, part guide, part experimental memoir, Denise Shanté offers glimpses into what she refers to as felt futures by inviting you to experience a creative social practice that embodies sensorial ways of being, knowing, relating, and making. Each book journeys through 4 pathways of narrative that connect us with the presence of felt futures, speaking from the spirit of creative lineages, abundant creativity, rituals, and devotions. They take different forms, from communal storytelling and letter writing to mimicry and fragmentary writing. Within these forms, you're invited into the future she's feeling, futures where we can deepen our creative politic and our care praxis, trust sensorial knowledge amid systems dependent upon our disembodiment, and tend to the disabled bodies from which we create. The book weaves visuals, frameworks, inquiries, prompts, and quotes, and leave moments to fully feel the futures we desire so that our dreams for care, intimacy, and liberation can come through. So what are felt futures? And this is my current living, breathing definition. If felt futures must be met with language, call them a breathing entity, a creative compass, a liberatory life force within us that trusts the sensorial and sensuous as we dare to make the futures we desire a reality. Citing myself at the bottom there, it's an experimental embodied concept, something that I have named and published about and continue to practice alongside fellow dreamers and designers. I think it's imperative to give ourselves permission to name and introduce ways of being, feeling, and making into the world, even if many may not understand or resonate with what you're introducing yet. It's a vulnerable and often spiritually exhausting process to let a world be birthed through us, but create it anyway, write about it anyway, tend to it anyway, publish it anyway. I share more about how the connection and conception of felt futures emerged in the book collection's preface and introduction that you can read on the published version of Substack, and I'll share more about that later. So because of my existing relationship with Aaron and Thick Press's focus on publishing books about care, I sent an email to them in 2023 about this book collection, Dream. I've been secretly seeding in my notebooks. I wrote across 3 years with the continued COVID-19 pandemic, chronic illness and disability, grief, migration, ongoing genocides and ecocides, and the devastating rise of empires that we are witnessing more and more. And the reality of this reveals itself too in the fragmentary writings that make up the collection as a deliberate connection to care and to disability justice. I was a part of every moment of the process, and that was a commitment to care for me too. After writing for 3 years, I then designed every cover, every page, because imagining it any other way felt like a form of creative suffering and abandonment for me. Like, seriously, I needed to trust and know that I'm the best designer for my personal publications. I know the root of each syllable. I know the cadence of each word. I know the lineage of each sentence. So I know the landscapes and the layouts that my stories deserve. You'll see images here of these moments of process, like me writing on index cards, and that literally being things that shaped the book. a studio shot from Impresos Mexico and me being there when the paper came in. You'll see the eco print that I designed here by Natural Flowers and with natural flowers and plants and shaped that eco print cloth. And that is what became the covers of my book. You'll see Julie doing some mock-ups and us on, having Zoom phone conversations and sending photos back and forth about the layout. Julie is actually the designer of the original structure of the book that I adapted. Us in LA at the Printed Matter Art Book Fair. And so I'll talk a little bit more of all of these. So on the editing process itself, I want to give some context because it required consistent communication around my boundaries, editing. And I had to be really clear, like, I only want you to engage with my writings from a place of inquiry before making suggestions. I don't want you offering like firm changes or making comments infused with subjectivity or what I consider to be unnecessary opinions, especially if we don't share cultural or lived experience, right? And so these types of conversations, like getting off of the document, having scheduled phone calls, being able to talk through the work, that was key. And there were some real moments of like some tension and necessary honesty for us to be able to come back and know each other's perspective from both editor and writer. We also, had to push back some goal dates as often as I needed to, understanding my body, mind, and everything that was happening. So the funding was completely supported by Thick Press. There was no artist fee because I did all of the design work. They covered all the costs related to copy editing, printing, and distribution. The funding support is one of the reasons why I wanted this publishing to be in collaboration with them, because I knew the support systems that I received. I didn't lose money, but that also meant that I wasn't really going to make any money from this, as the book sales need to first cover all the production costs. So this meant that I needed to do what I do best, which is imagining beyond one creation and utilizing my gifts as someone who designs experiences and holds spaces. And we'll get into this later. So I went to Impresos Mexico in Mexico City. That was already one of their print studio collaborators. I went there to see the mock-ups in person and make some real-time adjustments. And it involved some pivots, like changing the poster cover because the paper and the page count was actually thicker than we anticipated. So we had to have a plan B and C and see, what could happen and what we needed to do. I joined Thick Press at the LA Printed Matter Book Fair. That's us in front of that Medicaid sign. And we set up a little space where folks were able to come by and reflect on and respond to one of the inquiries from book 4 on devotions that asks, right now, in your creative life and practice, what are you devoted to? That was really, really, really amazing to offer that kind of engagement. So let's get into multimodality. And this is my perspective on multimodalities. This is actually the entry to what will be published in the next encyclopedia. How many modes and expressions can one creation take? This inquiry comes from my genuine curiosity as a disabled designer with a love for dynamic storytelling and a desire to engage our body minds in expansive sensorial ways. Growing curiosity into ongoing practice, I've come to understand the multimodal approach to be a deliberate honoring of the many ways we long to communicate, feel, and make meaning. I also continue to witness how creating and experiencing something beyond a single mode is an extension of care to our ever-changing access needs sensory capacities, attentions, and preferences for receiving knowledge. Choosing to design experiences that embrace multimodality says, I honor the many expressions being created through my body-mind, and I honor the many ways your body-mind could receive and experience these expressions. That just taking a pause there, because it really required some reflection on what does it mean to practice multimodality? What does it mean to think about the different ways that we want to share our experiences and how our bodies might be ready to receive them as well? So I released the preface and intro with an audio reading on Substack. I have been debating if and how to engage readers through Substack for like 3 years. And I was coming out with this book collection. I was like, well, maybe this is the moment. So I decided to begin the newsletter with announcing May We Dream and Design Felt Futures. I let the book collection launch become its own introduction to my other literary voice that was being introduced. The book collection as part guide, as part experimental memoir is one mode. So you'll see here some different images, weaving guidance in life stories. There's a different structure. It's oscillating between like reading, reflecting, and there are 3 sections inside with unique page colors and sizes for both aesthetics and an approachable way to distinguish the 3 kinds of content: the essay, the visual framework, inquiries and prompts, and the quotes in the open space. And these 3 sections were a part of each book. So being able to like engage with the different writings about my life and the different hybrid forms, having photos and visual narratives that people could interact with, and to also just have some breathing room and offer pages for people to feel, dream, and design. The second mode is when the book collection becomes a soundscape and sensorium. So I released the Felt Future Sensorium. It's this literary and sonic experimentation of me echoing narratives from the book collection. I created these in collaboration with Camille Mbonko, who is a Filipinx-American ambient musician and designer from LA. So we met in 2023 and collaborated with this across 4 months. And what came through is this textural, imaginative environment emerging through these layered field recordings and ambient synthesis. The Dear Breath track for this, it was released early during a May 2025 gathering at Seward Park in Seattle. And I chose Seattle because of 2 people who are mentioned in the book collection. Mina and M live there, and I wanted the experiences to be in connection with people who live inside the narratives. So I invited several friends and their friends and some creative co-conspirators to bring their headphones and softly drop into the sensorium, this sanctuary of sensation. And together we felt through these inquiries on who or what is making our inhales and exhales worthwhile. M. Wright, who's here, guided us through some breath practices, through their somatic work and ways of being. And we wrote letters. We wrote letters to breath. It was really, really, really amazing. There's a photo of me and M, photos. We look like we're attending a wedding or something. And photos of, people listening to the soundscape and that moment, and then also writing letters. It was an amazing, amazing time to see that come through. In the book collection as 4-month literary immersion, the Experiments in Felt Futures framework It consists of 4 literary immersions, 4 practices, and 12 weeks of gatherings. This is what I mean when, if you're writing, you're self-publishing something, or you're working with an independent publisher, and you're like, okay, what are the other modes of income? Well, for me, it's like I'm doing what I know how to do, which is hold space and design experiences. And so I knew when I was writing the book that it wasn't going to just be a book alone, that these pages were going to be activated. So Experiments in Felt Futures is a 4-month literary immersion where we remember and explore felt futures as a liberatory life force within ourselves to feel, dream, and design the futures we want to live inside. Each month, uh, people who I call creative and intuitive beings activate the book collection. It offers this like playful practice ground for sensory-based experimentation, inquiry, and storytelling. The first intimate group we just finished in November. So we gathered on Zoom land from August to November. We connected with the presence of felt futures. There were weeks made of guided experiments and embodied sessions, and we were writing and collaging and doing centering practices and connecting with our ancestors and everything around like different rituals and devotion. And we also enter each month by re-listening. Some folks had heard the sensorium and the 4 tracks. Some were hearing it for the first time, but like bringing that soundscape and sensorium into the space with us. I want to give a shout out to Nene, who is a creative co-conspirator, a dear friend. We've been growing our friendship these last couple of years, who is also a part of Experiments and Felt Futures. In the first one, just so much gratitude in that. I'm gonna drop some information in the chat so y'all can learn more about these as we're reaching closing time and questions. So you know the registration. I'm also offering 2 full scholarships for Black, disabled, and chronically ill folks. And there's a free discovery and soundscape session happening on January 20th. So our last inquiry, y'all. I would love to have you there, and hopefully you can join some of these experiences. Is what would it feel like for our next independent publications to explore the many expressions and experiences of multimodality? For the deep breaths, pause, play, and pleasure that P. Ife Williams affirms. I'm gonna leave you with that. And this is gonna be a moment. Let me check the time. Let's take 2 minutes just to like gather your thoughts, any questions that you have. And we'll come back in 2 minutes, 45 minutes after the hour, and get into a little bit of Q&A. 46 minutes after the hour. All right, at this moment, I welcome you back. I'm gonna stop screen share so I can be with you all for some moments of questions and conversations. We have some time for that. I invite you to share in the chat or come off mic and share a voice if you like. reflections are also welcome. Questions and reflections.
Denise Shanté, it's Emily Sarah here. I have just a reflection about, we've talked about before like fractured writing and fractured creative kind of processes and how that just so innately reflects the disabled experience. Um, And it's so interesting, I think, because like we all kind of have been we think about this in many ways in our own practices. And it's makes sense that we kind of come together with these thoughts that are so aligned because we all kind of come from very similar circumstances with disability. And I just think it's really, you just do such an eloquent way of like, yeah, describing these processes and I just love the transparency. So that's just a reflection, I guess, less of a question. So thank
Um,
you.
thank, thank you, Emily. Yeah, I tried to show, things living on my phone and my notebook, on index cards, in conversations. Um, speaking to moments of when writing happens, when we're in bed, when we're taking a walk, when we're nourishing and cleansing ourselves, when we're cooking, when we're with people, with our cats, our animal companions. Gonna share or read a share in the chat. This is giving me so many ideas that I am not sure where to start, but thank you so much for offering this. This truly helps rebuild my sense of play with the process. That's really amazing to hear. Thank you for sharing. Um, yeah, I love to hear that the sense of play is coming through because it is something that I love to invite, that possibility and that experimentation that can be put there. Yeah, I love that we're already doing that and like really pulling and returning to and resourcing what's already coming through us, the things that are living within our notebooks already, the things that we know we want to talk to our friends about. And all of the publishing experiences that I share with you all, the from the editors to the independent publishing with Thick Press to all to Nicole from Sense of Press, or like these moments of putting things into the Baltimore Red Emma zine portal, they're all relational. These all came from existing relationships. That it wasn't me like sending emails to random people or like waiting for someone to like tell me I could do something. It was something that I was going to create for myself and also something that the people around me who were in deep care and relationship with me wanted to see become possible too. And just a matter of simply asking, can you do this? Do you want to be a part of this? Yeah. See another share from Alex coming through. I'm leaving with a lot more courage to share through publishing and also how playful I could be with the formats. Thank you so much. Yes, all the different modes, all the different modes. And if you don't do a mode, like I'm not going to be doing those movement exercises that Erica does, at least not yet. I don't think so. But I know that they do it and I love what they do. And we're already in community. And so making that invitation and being like, wow, that's a mode that I want to see my writing come through. Another share. Mia, I love how you navigate through expansion and iteration within your practice. So inspiring. I also love how you're in action slash their urgency but care. Thank you. And thank you for sharing. I really appreciate the naming of that, Mia, of like, because I talk about slow self-publishing, but I also work really quickly. I don't work urgently, but I work quickly. Like I sometimes I have trouble collaborating with other people because I'll go from like 0 to 1,000 in the steps and processes, and I can see all the things coming, and they're like, whoa, 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 slow down. I'm like, no, we can do this, this. This can happen. I see all these connections. And so that's why sometimes I also is like, I don't need to collaborate right now. I need to actually just do this by myself because I do work quickly in that sense of emergence, in that sense of prototyping and experimenting. And so I'll go from 0 to 100, and then if I'll skip steps basically, and then I'll go back and be like, oh, okay, well, let me go back and do this thing. But I just don't want it to interfere with me trying to over perfect something or start to over analyze. And so I just need to give myself room to try it. Like if you're into human design, I'm a manifesting generator. Like we need to move through things. We need to see all of the possibilities and make that possible for ourselves. So yeah, it's like slow and it's also fast, but with care, not with urgency in that other sense. Yeah, I see a hand. Thank you, thank you. You have hearts coming through and hearts coming through for me too, and some shares in the chat. Yeah, there's the communal aspects, like from ourselves outwards. And what I'm hearing is like I love what you shared around like the timing. Um, and knowing kind of when to return and when to kind of circle back into the things that are living through us or want to come through us. And there are some things that I keep an idea notebook. It's actually I use a notebook called Hatch. If you want to look it up, and it allows, I love that notebook because it allows you to put in ideas and then ask yourself, do I want this to manifest and hatch itself? Do I want it? Or can this just be a space for me to get it out and to get it down? And not everything I actually end up doing or creating, but I end up having really amazing conversations with other people about it, or I journal about it, or it transforms into something else. I see so much love coming through and around, yeah, the realities of the harm, um, and the around disabilities, autism. Thank you all so much for sharing and reflecting back to what's being shared here.
Um,
And be
D
mindful of
Denise,
the time.
yeah, I was just gonna say, Denise Shanté, if you don't mind, I just want to be respectful of everyone's times, but
Yeah.
yeah, so if you have any last closing words, we can sign off after that. But I just wanted to note, thank you so, so much, everyone, for being here. And Denise Shanté, just absolutely incredible. And I will be in touch with the people who have been here this evening as well. So yeah, but any last words, Denise Shante? Not to cut you off, but
Yeah, can you all see my screen?
hmm.
Yes. So I'm going to leave you all with this one, just gratitude. Thank you for taking out the time to be here, to journey with me, with us. I'm extending a special creative offering for folks who are here right now and people who are registered, and invite you to dream, design, and write with me one-on-one. And so you can do this by joining me on Substack. My Substack is feelingourfutures.substack.com. And the first 10 folks, I'm going to hold space for 10 people specifically during February and March. If you subscribe to the co-conspirator tier, that's 155 USD dollars by January 31st. I'm going to hold space for 10 people to receive a private 1 hour session on insight and guidance on something you're writing and want to make public, and that we can dream together, we can co-imagine and have that time. So I just want to announce that and share it so you all have it. Send me a message letting me know that you were at this talk and we can book our time together. That's it.
Thank you so much. And thank you again to Rory and Cheyenne so much for being here. So appreciate you and Mia also for your support immensely. I appreciate you all immensely. So thank you.
Thank you.